whatever way, however you have expressed it, it's right for you. Go ahead with your emotions. Don't doubt your emotions. Go with full confidence. Speak out whatever you want. That is the source of enlightenment. Just speak out your emotions. You will understand yourself after emoting. Everybody has to express themselves, express those emotions, give verbal shape to those emotions. Then you will understand yourself and never doubt yourself. Always be confident and express yourself. Give words to your expression. Describe in every possible words the experience.
Good evening and happy morning to all of you, dear friends. A warm welcome to all of you for today's master class, that is our Saturday special. It's our proud privilege to have Jagadish sir with us for today's session, and he is going to talk about the topic existence. Sir, before going into the session, we will do the meditation first. Sir. Is it okay, sir? The meditation, we will do it first.
Yes, definitely.
Yes,
we'll have an hour meditation.
Okay, sir. Now, first we will do the meditation, then move into sir's session. So the meditation, what we are doing is breath mindfulness meditation. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, clasp your fingers and cross your legs and remove your specs if you are wearing it and observe your normal, gentle breath. You will be guided by Chandra sir and the music track will be there. Let us go into the meditation, dear friends.
Dear friends, dear masters, with the specs removed, eyes closed, keep your hands in your chest area. And resting your attention on your sacred heart. And can you feel your beautiful heart? Feel the center of all emotions, nurturing all life. With its higher vibration of love, compassion, kindness, gratitude. Can you recollect an experience from your past? Or simply imagine to be living an experience of higher emotions of love, deep joy, gratitude. Relive that moment and feel that energy. The more you experience this higher emotions and energy of love, compassion, the more coherent you become. With all things and everyone. We are all deeply interconnected. Deep inside, we are specks of energy connected to each other. Use self to direct this energy, to spread this energy to everyone and everything on this planet, to help them elevate themselves. Where your attention goes, there your energy flows. Feel. And slowly, let's go into breath mindfulness meditation with your fingers into fingers, hands comfortably rested in your lap. Observe your normal, natural in-breath and the out-breath. we are going into powerful group meditation, dear friends. Observe your natural in-breath and the out-breath. When you observe your breath, your mind becomes empty. The mind is becoming empty. We experience greater emptiness. That calmness inside of you, all around you. It is natural to have thought. When you recognize your thinking, go back to observing your breath and allow yourself to go into the deeper states of calmness, emptiness. As the mind is becoming empty, all that liberated energy is channelized into the present moment. Your body begins to function at its natural best. You develop greater power of thought. into your breath and allow yourself to experience that emptiness, calmness inside of you, all around you. Become aware of that calmness, stillness within you as you merge into your breath. All emptiness is energy. This is the quantum field of limitless dimensions, the field of infinite possibilities. The more you are with it, the more you tune in to the abundance of healing energy. empowerment energy. That energy of love, that energy of the mystic, or whatever you can become aware of. Into this emptiness of no body, of no thing. less matter, more emptiness and energy. As the mind is rested, you move away from this matter, your body. You experience that emptiness, energy, the feel of all connection, the field of all wisdom. The more you are in this calmness, emptiness, the more insightful you become, the more connected you become. Merge into the emptiness of yourself, your divine self. Receive your greater mind, that awareness. the more you are with it, the more you experience your intuitive intelligence. The more you develop that acceptance, and the more effortless life becomes. Friend, it's truly a privilege to be experiencing this life, to be exploring consciousness for a greater life at this time of history. Many are not so blessed. Can you express gratitude to everything and to everyone? Be grateful to this intelligent universe. To your parents, to your teachers, to your mentors. Deep gratitude to yourself, to your body. Give thanks to this nature, the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom. Gratitude to all the people in your life, to everyone. To everything, the technology, the system, the company, the governments. Gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. Recollect your experiences from the session. And whenever you're ready, you can keep your hands on your eyes for 5 seconds. And then you open your eyes.
Welcome back, dear friends. Hope you all enjoyed today's meditation. Now it is time for us to go into the session. So we have Jagadish sir with us for today's session. He is going to talk about the topic existence. A warm welcome to you, sir, for today's session. And before we go into sir's session, a brief introduction about Jagadish sir. Professor Jagadish S. retired as a professor in IIM Bangalore, held senior positions in public and private sector organizations. He has also had the privilege of advising the Karnataka state government in its IT interventions. Currently, he is mentoring few new IIMs and other business schools and teach as a visiting faculty on request. Professor Jagadish has been a meditator earlier, but with Buddha Sivo Quantum Foundation, he has been attending the programs regularly and has been dedicated to the cause ever since. So, sir doesn't need any introduction. We all know, sir. We have heard about him very often, but today we are fortunate to again listen from Jagadish sir. So, today's topic is existence. So, I find the meaning existence is a profound topic. This existence means different meaning to different people. For philosophers, one meaning. For spiritual seekers, one meaning. Spiritual masters, one meaning. And scientists, one meaning. So now let us know what exactly existence means and let us understand from Jagdish sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Greetings, friends and masters. That meditation was really required to pep up, like an elixir, to pep up this scheduled verbosity of mine. Vidya ma'am rightly said, it looks like existence has different connotations to different people. It is not just existence. If you look at any word, I keep insisting that words don't have meanings for themselves. It has to be only looked at to a context. They only have contextual meanings. They have meanings that you put into those words. So, if there are therefore so many contexts, I would like to look at it contextually and link it not separately for spiritualists, separately for philosophers, or separately for masters. I'll attempt to weave these together, essentially beginning with the fundamental philosophical concept. Philosophy, means love of knowledge. So it is knowledge that I'm looking at. So to understand this word, existence, now, does it scare us or does it delight us? I don't know myself. But we have to go back to classical philosophy to even understand this. See, classical philosophy always try to look at, understand the world around you and the human beings, how we fit into this. We always looked at behavior through a structure and set of rules, attributes. The human being is like this, and he has or she has to do this kind of a thing. Or this is how the world is, and that's how the human being fits into that. So on and so forth. In fact, Plato was the first one to find, the word academy comes from him, where he looked at the academy and he said, it's a framework into which every issue, where the world, the way it works, the human beings, each type of different human beings it talked about, they fit in and they obey according to those rules. He went even to the extent of saying, even when to rule, a ruler, he has to be a philosopher king. He used the word express philosopher king. So in order to administer a thing, you have to first be a philosopher. And he said they had to be caught at a young age and trained to be an administrator, not like a IAS officer, but not like a short thing, but to become a philosopher. This is the kind of mindset that was there in classical philosophy. Same thing with Aristotle, but in a different way. I'll come back to that. Descartes, for example, he is not saying that, listen, he said, there is a rule, there's structure because I think, therefore it is there. In fact, he's very well known for his thing, I think, therefore I am. Is a very famous quotation of Descartes. He looked at everything in the mathematic precision. But funnily enough, he said God exists. Why? Because I think he exists. And since I think perfectly, and God is perfect, therefore God exists. This is what is called circular reasoning. If you look at today's logician, you may laugh at it, but it made a lot of sense those days. He had a great follower. And through him, various other kinds of philosophers and students of his and from his academy. So if you look at all these, and of course, even as these were talking mostly, see, in Europe and Greece, most of the Spinoza, for example, said, look, the whole thing is a process, and you are a part. In fact, that makes meaning to us. I'll come back to it later on. As meditators, as spirituals, what Spinoza said makes a lot of meaning, because what he said actually banned him, the church banned him from Amsterdam, and said anybody who will talk to him also will be banned. That's the kind of thing, because he went against this, what he called the church, the thinking of the church. So, now if you look at it, what they were doing, all of these philosophers, classical philosophers, were looking at what I call the essence of the human being, the essence of life, the essence of the world. Essence means there are certain attributes, like what is the essence of, let us say, a classroom, even that very true. What is the essence of doing something? So we are looking at certain attributes. We assign attributes, certain, what shall I say, variables to which value, and this is what will make life, world, so on and so forth. And this went on. If you look at, when you're looking at essence, you're always trying to define human being, the world, as if it's something outside you. You can't look at an essence only from an outsider, right? You can't be the essence. When if you even put an essence in a cooking thing like that, you put it from outside. So all this looked at from outside, and this actually led to two types of philosophers. One, like Descartes and Plato, we call them rationalists. They're rational, like Descartes rationalized. Though I said this rational was, today, if you look at it, stupid. I said, I think thinking is perfect. So since I'm a thinker, I think so God is perfect. So I think therefore God exists, things like that. So they used to rationalize everything to the logic, so on and so forth. As against Aristotle, they were kind of empiricists. They said they were looking at the world, not as the rationalists, but as look at observations and the experience. Aristotle emphasized on experience. Later on, most of the empirics came only from Locke and Hume, only from England, UK, whereas the other European philosophers focused on the rationalism. If it interests you to know, even if you look at Indian philosophy, Vedas are more rationalizing the world. And if you look at all the hymns, etc., rational tries to bring about a logical relationship there. The Sankhya incident, I don't know much about Sankhya. I just heard about Sankhya. Sankhya, there's a little overlap between Vedas and Sankhya philosophy, but Sankhya philosophy is more or empirics. It looks at experience. It looks at what is happening and then draws conclusions from what is happening. But both of them, whether you are a rationalist or whether emphasis, try to define life and human beings, like I said, through certain attributes. Now, what happens because of this? You even look at, when you put an attribute, you even put a physical structure for it. It could be an abstract or a physical structure. Though people accepted it, Now we know as meditators, there is something called limited beliefs, right? Limiting beliefs. So once you put up rules, once you put a structure to it, you define yourself through your name, through your job, through how you behave, through how you have to behave. So what are we doing? We are limiting the true potential of whatever existence is, which we'll talk about later. A classic example of structure limiting it is the story of Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I don't know how many of you are aware of that. Very briefly, Jonathan Livingston Seagull was a seagull who wanted to see, seagulls are only flying or just fly low, go over the ocean near the beaches and pick up crab and whatever what you call, they are called the scavengers. But Jonathan Livingston Seagull, who was one of the seagulls, wanted to explore his greater potential. He wanted to see if he can fly higher, unlike other seagulls, and therefore he can go explore the greater world, go and pick up greater, fish, right, larger fish from deep in the ocean, so on and so forth. Can he see the larger ocean? What he discovered when he tried to obtain and got crash, he discovered what happened was the structure of his wings. The physical structure didn't allow him. But that is as long as he believed that it was determined by the structure. It's a long story. I'm not going into that. Subsequently, what happens? He crashes and decides, okay, my structure will not allow me. Let me go back. Let me go back to my mother and father who are telling me, don't be stupid. And even when they were going, later on, we talk about nothingness. He reached in the state of nothingness and he realizes, hey, if structure, they say, why can't I change my structure? If I want to imitate a swallow, okay, no, not swallow, sorry. What is that bird? The hawk. Okay, if you want to make a hawk, if you see a hawk has got very short wings, and that's how it can dive through very easily. I said, why can't I fold my wings tight? And he did it and succeeded. He flew at 200 miles per hour and succeeded because he was prepared to change his structure. Are we prepared to? Are we determined, confined by our own physical structure? Are we prepared to change? That's something that you'll have to think about. Anyway, so when this kind of discussion was going on, this classical way of philosophy got totally shattered, beginning with two people, Kierkegaard and Nietzsche. They said, look, humanity cannot be defined from outside. Kierkegaard said, look, I exist. What I want to know is, how should I exist? I exist. Doesn't matter how. Where? Don't define me by attributes. Don't define me by variables. But tell me if I exist. Right? And how? What does it mean? What does existing mean? And that's where the first idea of what is called as existentialism. Existentialism is the philosophy that tries to explain the concept of existence. I am going to, therefore, mostly focus on existentialism during this talk. It may sound a little profound philosophical. I'll try to, like I said, try to link this up with what we know. So bear with me if during the process, certain philosophical jargons, because they are not seem out of context and you may find it difficult. But of course, if you want to answer during the Q&A, I can also clarify some of these if necessary. But I don't think it will be necessary, as I will try to link up this. So the other person was Nietzsche, another German. He also said the same thing. Listen, we are existing, period. That's what matters. In fact, he went to the extent of saying, we're so foolish to think as if something exists outside, something happens outside us, and something outside has to live. So I said attributes are the essence, right? What we are, how we think. So he said, no, if you look at existentialism as a philosophy, existentialism actually precedes essence. Only when you exist, then you have an essence. I have my attributes, whatever I have now, and which I'm able to change only because I exist. So, to give you a very formal definition of existentialism that I have like to tell you is existentialism is a philosophic standpoint which gives priority to existence over essence. Existence is more important, not your essence. Then, what is meant by this is that existentialism gives a priority in significance to existence in the sense of my existence as a conscious being. This is where what I when I say exist, not from because Plato or others say that's it, because I exist as a conscious being. And this is very important to us when we look at it connected to our spirituality. I'll come back. We'll come back as we go along. So, in the essence of my existence as a conscious subject rather than by any essence assigned to me, any definition of me, any explanation of me by science or philosophy or religious politics. So science, let's but all try to define me, and we know myself that that's not what it is. I am a conscious being, and I should be aware of that. Existentialism affirms the ultimate significance, the primacy of my existence as the flickering point of consciousness of myself and objects of which I am aware. This is what we talk about awareness, getting aware, becoming conscious. That's what existentialism says that we are. Existence only takes the privacy. Now, fine, having shaken up classical physics with these kind of ideas, it's a very long story. There are several exercises we'll go on later on, refer to them. What this actually resulted. When, as it comes to Kierkegaard, he said this results in despair. I just exist. I am a conscious. So what is it? Where does this attribute, where the essence come from? So there's a despair in him. It's most beautifully expressed by Omar Khayyam when he says, into this universe and why not knowing, and whence willy-nilly like a river flowing. And out of it, out of it, whither willy-nilly blowing. What he said is, I don't know how and when I came here, why. And when and I'm going out. Patrici always said, when he was referring to Bhagavad Gita, he also said, we don't know, there's no birth, there's no death. That's what Bhagavad Gita said. You just come in and just go out. But for these people, that creates a despair. So what am I supposed to do? Why am I here? How did I come? Why did I come here? In fact, Kirk said, why have I come here? That's very desperate. That's what he said. Now, this kind of despair, how Kierkegaard ultimately handles this. So ultimately says people do not know therefore what to do. They exist, they're helpless. So the only way out for them is to totally surrender to the will of God. He brought in God there, which was the original metaphysics. He said, he didn't say that. He said, that's what people do, sorry. So people, what they do? They totally surrender, helplessly, not out of knowledge, helplessly to the so-called will of God. That's how they handle this despair. That's how they find the peace in mind. Nietzsche, on the other hand, just said just the opposite. He coined this word, God is dead, become very famous expression. When he said God is dead, he didn't mean that something called the God, because it didn't matter to him whether is dead or alive, something like that. What he meant, the belief of people in God, because the despair that they thought earlier God was there. It was very interestingly, I think yesterday in the Amrit when I was participating, Dr. GK was there. And the first thing he mentioned was, one of the things he learned earlier was for a book called, If You Meet Buddha on the Road, shoot him. This is by Kopp. Alan Kopp is the author of that book. I read that book 40 years ago and then maybe many more times later. So this is what it means is, he says, where's God? So when you Buddha, if you meet the Buddha, what it means? Don't depend on somebody. So people realize their belief in God was dead. And so what was the solution for them? He said, we had to define our own lives. Fine. Nietzsche said, define your own lives. And that seems to good. And that seems to also conform to the way we talk about in spiritual science, when we talk about spirituality. But then Sartre, the later on, the 20th century philosopher, these are 19th century philosophers, the 20th philosophy, like beginning with Heidegger, Sartre, Camus, much later. See, these people, different among them, Sartre said, he looked at, all these looked at the absurdity of life. Sartre, Camus particularly, both of them looked at absurdity. The whole thing is absurd. Life itself is absurd. So, how do you define it? He didn't talk about either Nietzsche or Kierkegaard. He said, look, the only way people exist is to be able to make their own choice. We can choose, he said. So where did this come? So how does it? So what is so great about it? So we can choose. Big deal. No, he said, what happens when you choose was we always put a framework. What exactly you choose? Because we were actually confronted as subvert by something called moral values. For him, doesn't matter. Supposing you have to kill someone, cool. If that is the choice you made. But when you choose, you become responsible for whatever choice you have made. He totally discarded the concept of morality. But here, I would like to a little digress, because it's very important, because in our daily conversations, even when we deal with spirituality, we always bring in the question of ethics. Now, morality and ethics, there's a difference. So morality is defined by more. That means what society accepts. Society puts a rule there. For example, it's not immoral in our society for a lady to bare her face. But if you go to an Arab country, it's immoral if she bares his face in the open towards other men, right? So even in our own country, ladies in the north, particularly Rajasthan, used to cover their face. So this is called moral. It's based on the social norms. And if you look at the Western thought, particularly UK, this more has changed over. And because morality keeps changing. Ethics is not morality. Ethics is a kind of concept where it says this is the right thing or this is not the wrong thing. It's not absolute, but still there is a difference between moral and ethics. Erich Fromm was a German psychologist cum philosopher who spoke and wrote a lot about ethics, just like our own J. Krishnamurti also. He defined ethics of two types: ethics of authority and ethics of conscience. Ethics of authority, like here, we found Kierkegaard said, people believing in God, etc. Ethics of authority means, like the church, the society, so on and so forth, put some rules. This is how you have to behave. That is the ethics of authority. If you look at it, practically 99.9% of existence happens by succumbing to ethics of authority. The church tells you to do. Your religion tells you to do something. Your school tells you. This is what we talked about, limiting belief system. Schools tell you what to do. What is right is what you know. This is called ethics of authority. And Erich Fromm was against it because that imposes, like you saw, limiting values. On the contrary, ethic of conscience is something that your conscience tells you, not because somebody else tells you. So if we as people exist, are as conscious being, So there is a conscience that tickles that consciousness. Actually, Harold Percival, in his huge volume called Thinking and Destiny, brings it out beautifully. He says, there is, I'm not going to the detail because it will confuse you if I talk about that. He talks about, see, there is a triune self-will out of which a part of you has come and taken the breath form. The existence is the physical form. But there is something called knowledge there that on and off comes to try to knock on your head out there. Okay? And enlightenment that you may call, it tries to tell you this is right. Most often what we do is we ignore that. But if you are open, that's this ray from your triune self, then you will know whether it's the right thing to do or not the right thing to do. For example, for most of us, when we try to steal or when we try to lie, this particular knowledge from there, the triune self comes and tells you, hey, this is right or wrong. So we don't. But if I have a great other motive, I'm prepared to ignore that. I'm prepared to ignore I want to steal something because I like something that my neighbor has. I like to borrow and keep it with myself. Books, for example, you borrow, though sometimes it says you ignore that, and that is where most of us forget ethics of consciousness. So anyway, having said that, let me come back to existentialism. So there are certain themes of which are called existentialism, which needs to be understood carefully. So first thing we already said, man is a conscious being rather than a thing to be predicted or manipulated. What do? We let ourselves get manipulated, don't we? We get manipulated by bosses. Unfortunately, as a married man, I get manipulated by my own wife. So this is what happens. But we are as conscious being and not rather than things to be predicted. We cannot say this is what we try to predict things what to do, or we allow ourselves to be manipulated. The another theme of existentialism is anxiety. Anxiety comes from what we call the nothingness of human existence. Now, I'll talk about nothing a little later. I hope I have enough time. Sorry. Please warn me. So this nothingness of human existence means we exist, right? And we are conscious, right? So what happens where we are not existing? When do we not exist? That is nothingness. And that creates a kind of anxiety of death. When I die, I'm a nothing. Remember? That's the fundamental fear all of us have. So I am nothing. But beauty of it is, you see, in our spiritual side, I'm going to now keep combining and connecting them. Even as we meditate, we have said, there is a world out there where there's nothing. And we go, that is where we find out. In fact, Joe Dispenza, in one of his books, he says, so when you are contemplating, you just think, you say no. He says, erase everything that is around you. Then erase the city from your mind that you are in. He goes on, erase the planet you're in. Erase the solar system you're in. Ultimately, you are there only as a feeling. That is nothingness. And it is that nothingness when you are there, dark, the unknown, which is what gives you a lot of power. It gives you realize because you're not this human being, you're not this existence in a physical structure, but you are much more than that, the divine thing. And during meditation, when you reach that level, beyond nothing, that's where. In fact, I earlier referred to Jonathan Livingston Seagull. When do you know he realizes that to be a hawk, you have to Structure you have to change. He is so disappointed for her failure and is flying back in the night to his parents. The whole thing is dark. And he says, my God, seagulls are not supposed to fly in the dark. What do I do? And then he says, I'll stop thinking. When he stops thinking, total dark, he finds nothing. It's in that moment of nothingness, that's what Sartre, that moment of nothingness that you're most creative. And that is when he gets the idea, hey, why can't I change my structure? And he succeeds. Right? That is what is all. So anxiety is the claim that anguish is underlying self-purposeness. That's the second thing. And I told you how. The worst part, and which is what actually occupied the minds of all subsequent 20th century, particularly Camus, Albert Camus, and Jean-Paul Sartre, which are the most sought after existence philosopher modern day, is absurdity. To exist as a human being is an inexplicable thing and wholly absurd. What is the purpose? So absurd. Even you talk about we have a purpose, a system, etc. But why? It's also absurd. Now, Sartre, when he talk about absurd, this is where he said, look, that's why it's so absurd. You can choose anything, it doesn't matter, the moral, etc. Albert Camus was more focused on this absurdity of life. He had written a lot of things. There's the question of, he says, so what do you do in an absurd? So life is absurd. He says, the only way you can handle is just accept the meaningless of it. There's the Sisyphus, suppose you are given a big rock and go out of the mountain. He is punished by the Greek gods. He has to take the rod up to the mountain. He knows he can't go right to the top, and he has to come down. The rock comes rolling down. Again, he puts it up. But he says the only way he can exist is to accept. Total acceptance, total surrender. Not from the God point of view, like Kierkegaard said, but from the fact of existence. This is the absurdity of existence. Let me accept the absurdity. In fact, there is another, Camus won his Nobel Prize for his small playlet called The Outsider. It's also known as Stranger, where this guy out of self-defense shoots somebody, kills somebody. But when he's arrested, he is not bothered about defending himself. So because at that time that he had just seen his mother widow come away, and because he didn't believe in God and believe in all this, he said after death has come. So he was so upset when he went to see his mother, he didn't even want to look at the coffin. He just sat on cigarette. But people thought this fellow is a monster. He doesn't even have value for money. Then, since he didn't believe in God, the clergyman who came to talk to him in jail, when he said, I don't believe it, he said Antichrist, he's a Satan. And then when people tried to ask, like, why did you shoot him instead of defense? He said, no, the sunlight was too much against me, and therefore that's how I shot him. This is the kind of absurdity accepts, and therefore he is condemned to be guillotined. Though he could have easily saved himself because said self-defense. People created this image of him that he's a monster, so on and so forth, because of his actions. And his actions was, the whole life is absurd. I don't have to bother about this. But this is what happens. So, when we look at there's no structured world, essence doesn't define me. What happens when I define? Nothingness. This is where I talk. I've already referred to nothingness. Ultimately, nothingness matters a lot. We exist in nothingness. When we don't exist, nothing. There's nothing wrong in it. In fact, if you come to astrophysics, right? You are nothing. If you look at astrophysics, the multiverse, where there's only a whole of nothingness there. Nothing is filled up by what is called as the clash of the matter and antimatter, which I refer to as the Tandamam Shiva. This whole energy is because of constant clashing of matter and antimatter. Nothingness out there creates, because it is destroying itself and nothing is created out there. Why I should be afraid? Alienation. So, what happens therefore again about existentialism? Alienation comes up. Now, Sartre and also Camus, even our my favorite Nietzsche said, "Do what you want to do." So, in society, when I am trying to do what I desire, I like to do, I feel alienated. This again comes because of the what I said, the ethics of authority. Very often, when we try to do what we want to do, what happens? We get alienated. It happens. You can't be in a hostel, okay, and then you remain. You want to do what your own thing when the others are trying to do something for you, and they pull you in, and you don't have it. You get alienated. Even if you do what they want, you do it because of compulsion, and that you feel totally alienated. In fact, this actually happens to Jonathan Livingston again, coming back to it. When he wins, when he becomes successful, you know what happens? When he comes back to his family, he's alienated. The entire Seagull community asks him to get out. They excommunicate him. They send him out. They don't accept him. This is the problem. Our existentialism. We get alienated. So finally, actually, if you have to look at, I come to the more 20th century philosopher, before Camus and Sartre, of course, who preceded them was Heidegger. It's Heidegger which coined a phrase that which I want to emphasize upon, and it was called the being. I have also shared often that what happens to me when during meditation is not anything gained, but I learn to be or to being. This being is the capital B. What does that mean? Let me explain. This is a very important concept to please understand and not to be taken just as another word. Being is what makes you understand beings with a small being. All these things are being, right? My laptop is a being, the tree is a being, my life is a being, my relationship is a being. But I can understand and be that being because of my being with the capital B. A beautiful explanation, if I can give, is, I hope you understand, is like a light bulb. You don't see light directly, but you see the objects that reflect the light. So understand, so those are the things there because of light. Being is exactly that. All the things that you see in the world is because you are a being. You don't see being directly, you don't understand being directly, but you understand, you see all the objects around you, you see the life around you, you see your actions, everything, because you are a being. Try to understand this carefully. Contemplate over what I mean by that. Most powerful idea that Heidegger put it. But then, I already told you nothing. So nothing is the opposite of not being. That is, again, you choose. When you're not being, you're nothing wrong with that. In fact, Heidegger also spoke about, he called it the life as a river of finitude. River, you have a limit, finitude. And you're thrown, in here use the word, I'm not going to, that's a much greater concept than being. Thrownness. You're thrown into a culture. So you and I have certain ethnic difference. We are thrown into that. We have no, as against somebody, let us say, in Netherlands. We cannot be the same being because our cultures determine our being. So when you are thrown like that, we are thrown into what is called as the river of finitude. Finitude is the lifespan. Now, how, when you're floating, whether you float, whether you drown, or how do you learn to swim, is what makes your existence meaningful. That is the final underline. You get the point? Now, I could go on and on and on. I think I crossed 30-minute mark already. I would like to just to, what fascinates me is Tennyson, Lord Tennyson. Okay, he says, yes, existence is there. There are so many theories. and there are so many entities there, the beings, the small beings. He says, but if that not a worm is cloven in vain, that not a moth with vain desire is shriveled in a fruitless fire. Moth goes to a fire and then gets shriveled. Or, but subserves another's gain. Behold, we know not anything. I can but trust that good will fall at last, far off, at last for all. And every winter turn to spring. But then there's a caveat. Ends up with a caveat. He says, so runs my dream. We talk about purpose, right? This is what he talks about. Everything has a purpose. So runs my dream. But what am I? A child crying in the night, an infant crying in the night, an infant crying for the light, and with no language but a cry. That is what the status. Now, what we are doing when we talk about spirituality, meditation is one of the very methods by we are trying to reach spirituality. What are we doing? We are seeking solace from the cry. Let us continue to cry. Let us cry and cry and cry until your parent answers you and gives you solace. Thank you for listening. I hope I made myself understood, though it's a very limited thing. I condensed quite a lot into a few words. Thank you.
Yes, dear friends, you can, if you got any questions or anything you want to tell, you can just ask, sir, if you got any doubts, any questions.
I hope what I said, first of all, it's a tough subject. It's tough subject. I deliberately wanted to say that to raise your Hemalata. Yes, please. Can you unmute her?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I just wanted to ask, you said computers and all these things are also beings. Can you please just...
Small beings, objects.
Okay.
So they are small beings. So
Okay.
we can see them. Why? Because I'm a being.
Okay.
So everything is a being, right? You say a tree is a being. Any matter is a being.
Okay.
Even an idea is a being.
Mhm.
Right? Now,
Okay.
these are the beings of small with a small b. When I say being, those things are possible because I'm a being. Those are things are possible because I am a being. Which is why I say, right? It's a very profound thing. I'm a being. Let's say, what do you say about Brahmashi Pratriji, for instance? When I said he was the Messiah, to him, he was a being. To be is what we should attempt on. And we do be at moments. On several moments in our daily life, there are moments when you be. Those of you, for example, did the very long-term meditation we just ended yesterday. You see, immediately after that particular moment was for a moment, you understand that you are a being, that you be. You are be. You are a be. That's the point.
So according to me, being is something where you have got the consciousness to recognize that consciousness. But I don't think so. The television has got a being where the consciousness is there.
No, television not is a matter. Sorry.
Yeah.
I differentiate with the small being. The television is a small being. Any item is a being. In fact, the television is a system, if you know it. So it has a purpose. Any system has a purpose, right?
But it doesn't have
It is put
a
together.
consciousness.
It doesn't. Who said it has consciousness? It doesn't. That's what
Okay.
their existence means. That's where Kierkegaard and Nietzsche came against the Lord philosophers. Existence means that we are conscious beings, not those those things like television and objects. Even we are not sure whether animals and birds are conscious beings. If we look
Yes.
at them, they are also beings with a small b. You have to be a conscious being to be. You can't expect a television to have consciousness. They're done. But it's a system. It has a purpose. Every system has a purpose. Living or non-living. A TV is known as a non-living system. You and I are living systems. There's a big difference. Living systems have these properties. We have the need to grow. A television doesn't have the need to grow. Isn't it? You need to grow and the ability to grow. You have locomotion. You move. You are dynamic. You move from one edge to one point to another, etc. You have the ability to procreate. Okay, as human beings, we procreate children, but as living organized systems, we create duplicates, replicates. Look at the way both the Buddha's has gone from a small 40-day meditation, how it has procreated. So it's the ability to procreate. So these are the attributes of a living system. Need to grow, ability to procreate, and then locomotion, dynamism. TV doesn't have that. Neither does a laptop. These are non-living systems. If you leave the TV like that, it remains like that. It doesn't grow. It doesn't procreate. Right?
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
That's welcome. Okay. Anybody else? Now, what I would like to do is, see, it's not, I know I deliberately chose a topic which has to be, we've been looking at meditation every day in, day out. I wanted to make it tough. I brought in something, so you should still contemplate upon it, think about it, and find books, both in spiritual science and philosophy, because they're all connected. Philosophy, science, religion are not totally disconnected from spiritual science. If you look at, I'll try to study it, I don't know how well I did it. In between, therefore, I will keep bringing spirituality, how they are connected in different ways. So all knowledge, they're connected. And we are seekers of knowledge. When we seek the knowledge about ourselves, we are meeting our purpose. That's where we find comfort. Some find their purpose very explicitly. Some people like me don't find the purpose explicitly, but we understand what that is. Yes. So should we call it a day?
Yes. Are anyone else want to ask a question? Yeah, otherwise we can wrap up the session.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
you,
you.
sir. Thank you, sir,
Thank
for
you.
taking the time and coming and sharing your wisdom with us. So you have mentioned so many philosophers' names, from Aristotle, Plato to the latest philosophers' names and their views and everything. We were fortunate to listen to your session today. And my takeaway simple is that I have noted about 4 to 5 takeaways from today's session. So which is related to our day-to-day life. The existence first means we are exist as a consciousness. Then we are responsible for taking our own life, and we define our own life. And also, when we change our structure, we can be like Jonathan Livingston Seagull, so who can change their lifestyle, and we also find out our own potential. Last but not the least, existence means it is nothing less. Every day in our meditation, we go to the quantum field and we reach that nothingness, and then we come back. So existence is in other sense, we are seeking our own knowledge and our own purpose in the life. So
yes,
yeah,
absolutely right. Thank you for understanding that much. And I hope it's not an easy. But by the way, don't bother about the names of the philosophers. I brought the names of philosophers because I brought it through a evolutionary process. The way it grew from classical philosophy. Today, it's mostly, that's why I think many times I've also mentioned that I'm a existentialist in that sense. It doesn't mean I don't believe in spiritual science, right? So I'm an existentialist because I find a lot of meaning in. So there is, therefore, you even think when you talk about how absurd it is, that also is necessary sometimes because you get carried away otherwise. So there is an absurdity there. There's also the moral there. There's no, you're not governed by outside morals, outside ethics. You have your own consciousness, ethic conscience as it is. So there are, so if you're an existentialist, to me, as far as I'm concerned, therefore I seek my purpose. I know my consciousness. I know it is absurd, but I don't want to give it to like God said. So just give it to God, or like this man Albert Camus said, Sisyphus, just keep on submitting yourself without understanding why you're doing it, just to be comfortable. Being comfortable is not just giving up and keep doing what you're supposed to do. You have to be more by Jonathan. Look at your potential. Go ahead. Try however difficult. You may not have achieved it, but still try your potential. And I think that's what most of us are. We have achieved our potentials. And I don't know, at my age, uh, to what extent I have tried to achieve. I'm sure there's a lot more potential which you have not discovered. That's what we talk about possibilities, right? Quantum physics, nothing is deterministic. In fact, that's what Sartre said. Nothing is deterministic. It is probabilistic. The word. The earlier philosophers thought everything was deterministic. Existence is showed nothing is deterministic. It's what you make of it. Okay? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Equally, I thank all the participants who have taken the time and attended today's session. So thank you and see you all next week, the Saturday, the same time. Have a nice weekend, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sai, for being with us.
Gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so
Okay,